Mitzad, the four languages of Geula. The fourth language is Shaykh to Matan Torah is when we actually internalize the whole process. And that's Shaykh to Yayin. Yayin has a taste. And Matza represents that aspect of Yetzias Mitzrayim that we hadn't yet internalized. It all came from above. Lo he speak, but as I was saying, our dough hadn't risen, meaning our Veda wasn't complete. So now the Rebbe is going to relate to the inyan of Gimel and Dalet themselves. Ois Hey. That's also why, the last thing we saw, why Achilas Matza is Minatara, because on Tesvav Nisan, that's the level of the Geula that's been revealed. So that's Shaykh. Whereas the Rabbanan, which reveals the inner reality of something that hasn't come into a state of revelation itself yet, so that's Dafka line. But on a deeper level, as this is da a shayches penimis, there's an inner relevance between matzah and kaises, yayin, und der misparim gimel v'dam. Right? Meaning, we just said now that it's based on the Arba L'Shenis Geulas, and now we're going to say that it's actually, on a deeper level, it's based on the numbers 3 and 4 and the letters Gimel and Dal. The chilek zwischen dem Misparim Gimel and Dal, the difference between the numbers, not the letters yet, Gimel and Dal, is moving from Maimer Chazal B'Negea the Oisius Gimel and Dal. Is understood from the Maimer Chazal, the Gemara in Shabbos that discusses the Aleph base. It discusses the form of letters and which letter comes before which letter. So when that Gemara discusses Gimel and Daled, what does it say about Gimel and Daled? Aleph and Beis are Aluf Bina, teach understanding. Gimel and Daled are Gemel Daled. Gemel, what's Gemel? Gemilut. Yefet. Right? Gemilus Chasadim. Right? Goimel is the one who gives. Hagoimel Chayavim Teves. The one who gives is the Gomel. The Dal, what's a Dal? Anybody know what a Dal is? Poor person. A very poor person. Right? So Gomel Dalim is the Gimel is the giver and the Dalit is the receiver. Interestingly enough, so Chazal explained that the Gimel is facing the Dalit. The Dalit is facing away, he's embarrassed, but he's got his hand out in the back. That's the little spitz at the end of the Dalit. His hand is in the back to receive from the Gimel. There's a lower level of poverty that a person is so poverty-stricken that they can't even put their hand out, and that's a Resh. Rash is the lowest level of poverty. So the Resh represents that. He doesn't even have a hand out. He's so downtrodden he can't even accept. Dalit is still in a place where you can accept. So what's the Gimel? The Gimel is the Mashpia, the giver. And Dalit is the recipient, the Makabel. Gimel Dalim, das heißt, that means, as Gimel is Merames Ifin Goimel, Gimel hints at the notion of Goimel, Neusen, the one who gives. What did you say the word was, Mesh? You said a good word? Bestow. And Dalid, Ifin Dal, Makabel, the poor one is Makabel. So that's Gimel Dalid. The Rebbe is going to say that's also shaykh to the numbers. And das wird euch herausgebracht, this is also brought out in the Misparim Gimel and Dalid, in the numbers Gimel and Dalid. Why? This is a deeper idea in Chassidus, and as you can see, it's a longer footnote. Right? It's a footnote that has some information in it. Ahashpa, influence from above, wie sie steht noch in dem Mashpia, but when it's still in the Mashpia, meaning that which the Mashpia is going to give over, but he has not yet given it over, Neusen, he hasn't given it. Besteht sie von 3 Bechinas. There's 3 levels of that. We'll come back to that in a second. There's three levels of that level of reality. B'shas the hashpa kumt shoin atzun makabel, and when the hashpa now comes already to the makabel, to the recipient, usually we, the mashal brak for this is mashpia and talmud, the teacher and the student. Kumtsu aferta bechina. There comes a fourth quality. There's shetach ukli, the area and the kli and the vessel of the makabel. Now there's a makabel. Welches frier gewen behelem, and this was frier's before. Frier dicker Rebbe, the Rebbe from before, right? The previous, right? Previously. Welche is frier, this is previously gewen, had been behelem. In the mashpia, had been hidden in the mashpia. Okay, so in hashpa, from mashpia to makabel, there's three levels of that hashpa. That's what the Rebbe is hinting at here. Well, he doesn't explain it, he just says that there is such a thing. In the mashpia himself, there's three different levels. There's two ways of explaining that. The simplest way of explaining that is the mashpia mitzad himself has to first understand the idea. Then he has to process the idea for transmission. I'm sorry, to come in the easiest. He has to come in contact with the idea itself, understand the idea, and process the idea for transmission to the student. So those three levels exist in the mashpia. His awareness of the idea, his understanding of the idea, now that's relative to himself. And if he's not talking to anybody else about it, that's enough. Right? But then relative to, but if he wants to give this idea over to someone else, he has to prepare the idea for transmission to the makabel. That's the third level of the mashpia. But that's all happening in the mashpia. He hasn't done it yet. Then he's mashpia to the makabel. So when he's mashpia to the makabel, so now that brings into revelation a fourth level, the makabel. Right? There's a way also of explaining that the mashpia understands it, prepares it, and then is mashpia it. That's all still happening in the mashpia. But the relative to what we just said, the third level seems to still be in the state of helam, still in the state of concealment. So we'll keep it before he's mashpia. And then the fourth level is when he's actually mashpia, when he gives it over, he teaches it to the student, and now it comes into a state of revelation. So it's shiur to this fourth level, the makabel. Right? So the fourth level is the level that happens outside the mashpia. In the mashpia, there's three different levels of reality, his relationship to the idea. And then the mashpia gives it over to the student. That's the fourth level. That's a level of revelation. So there's 3 and 4, which is mashpia and makabel, one who influences and the one who is influenced, the recipient. There's Gimel and Daled, which is Gimel Dalim. Okay, we're going to skip the brackets here, okay? Rebbe just explains this in Seichel itself, which is a very interesting idea, but not shaykh to the Sicha per se. Okay, that's why it's in brackets. It's a mushal to relate this idea of Gimel and Dalet. Okay, so Gimel and Dalet in Seichel, the mashpia giving over to the Talmud.
Should we be trying to categorize this yet? What the Gimel and the Dalet apply to in terms of Matza and Yain, or is he going to?
The Rebbe is going to do that. The Rebbe is going to do that, right? But he's already sort of done that, right? Now the Rebbe says something astounding. Now the Rebbe says something. I mean, hopefully they all see it. Now the Rebbe says something else that really is quite astounding. Right? So there's the chiluk of Matza, which is the Yetzias Mitzrayim mitzad the mashpia, and there's the union of wine, which is Yetzias Mitzrayim mitzad the makabel. We've received it. That's 4 cups, gimel matzahs. Mitzad HaKadosh Baruch. Mitzad HaKadosh Baruch Hu, gimel matzahs. Mitzad us, 4 cups. The mitzvah that comes from the Eibishter is gimel matzahs. The mitzvah that comes from below is daled kaisis. Now the Rebbe says something quite astounding that also doesn't have to do with Pesach per se, but is really so fascinating. Das is euch einer von the Biurim. This is also one of the explanations. In dem Chiluk zwischen die Avos und Imahos, in the difference between Avos and Imahos. What's one of the main differences between the Avos and the Imahos? 3 Avos, 4 Imahos. Why are there 4 Imahos? Should be 3 Imahos. It's 3 Avos, 3 Imahos, right? 3. Right? 3.
I'm just sitting here.
I know.
I'm innocent.
I didn't say anything.
Go that far.
Oh. Whoa. Washington has been heard from here. The government has been heard from. Das ist euch einer von den Biurim in dem Chiluk zwischen die Avos und Imahos. Gimel Avos und Dalet Imahos. Which is strange. I mean, people who aren't curious never wonder about these things. But people who are curious, which you should be, wonder about these things. I understand the Abishta couldn't. 3 husbands and 3 wives. Like why Dafka 4 wives? What's that about? Okay, I get the story. How'd that happen? Oh, so now the Rebbe explains. The Torah of the description of an aim, as opposed to man and woman, Abba and Ima or something specific, is verbundet mit their hashpah, is shaykh to their influence. Giving birth to children. That's how a ish becomes an av, and that's how an isha becomes an aim, by having children. Und from the chilukim zwischen sehen, from the differences between them, in their hashpah is, and amongst the differences between them in their hashpah, is in tipas hashpah sa'ab, in the seed, in the drop, which is the hashpah of the av, zayin in the evari of vlad klulim behelim god. What's there? All of the limbs of the child are incorporated in that drop, but in a state of helam god, state of complete concealment. It's all there. Over the aim, what does the ima do? Aim meitziase lidei gilui. The ima brings this to a state of revelation, but leidos of vlad shalem, in her giving birth to a complete child, where now all the limbs are in a state of revelation. All of the potential that exists in Abba has been brought into a state of realization by Ima. Mitzadem Av, in terms of the Av, der Mashpia, the one who gives, is noch der Dover Amushpa, the object that is going to be, Hashpah is also beneficence, right? Flow. So the object that is going to be as a result of this hashpah, their vlad, the child, nit in a tzir golu, is not in a revealed form in any way, shape, or form by the father. Their gilu hashpah, the revelation of the hashpah, b'peil mamish, and that happens in actuality, b'kliya makabel, in the vessel of reception, is durch der ein, stafka by ima. So the potential of the child exists, or the potential of the whole reality of the child exists in Abba. But the realization of that potential is Dafke Ima. That's also Chokhmah and Bina have the same relationship. The potential to understand exists in Abba. The realization of that potential is Abba. The realization of that, the revelation of that is Dafke and Ima and Bina. And therefore, Zayin da Gimel Avos. Therefore, there's Gimel Avos. Why? Because what are the Avos? The Avos are the Mashpia, where everything is still in a state of hiddenness. While the Hashpah v'di is mitzad, while the Hashpah is as a result of in the Mashpia, Avos is gestellt in drei bechinas. It's expressed in 3 levels, like we said earlier. So there's what level is missing? The level of revelation is missing. the everything's been prepared for revelation, but the actual revelation hasn't happened. Where's the revelation happen? Mashiach came the imars in Ima, Bechinas Makabel. So the Ima, they're the Makabel, they're the fourth level. So they're the level that brings about the revelation of all that is hidden in Abba. And they Zain and they Zain and B'Mispar Daled. Therefore, there's RB imars because the imars represent the fourth level, the level of revelation. Al derech zeh in this way, b'negei to Yetzias Mitzrayim, so too relative to Yetzias Mitzrayim. In der Geula from Mitzrayim, Vizi is gekommen milamayla as it comes from above, is given kolul b'koyach. It's included in a state of potential, the ganze Geula, the complete Geula, b'shleimusa, in its wholeness. Oich die Geula, also the Geula, wie is gekommen der noch, that comes afterwards, lidei gilui, to a state of revelation, befeil, in actuality, by Matan Torah. Even that state is contained within the reality of Yetzias Mitzrayim. It's just in a state of concealment. Se is nar vos dart is es behelem, but it's concealed. Okay, so we've just answered a question that we asked. I mean, the Rebbe hasn't answered it. We didn't ask it either. We asked it. The Rebbe just answered a question that was bothering us. What was one of the questions we were bothered by regarding the 4 cups of wine? Okay, we'll go further. We'll see if we can chaperein what it is. Und das ist euch von die Chilukim zwischen Matza and Yayin Kaisis. And this is also the differences, amongst the differences, between Matzah and wine. Kaisis. There's Zeicher L'Geula L'Lecheira, is that which is a remembrance to redemption and freedom, Mitzad Torah Shebechsav, that comes from Torah Shebechsav. And in Mishlei, how does Shlomo Melech describe Torah Shebechsav? Musar Avicho. And what's Torah Shebal Peh? Torah's Imecho. Oh, wow. Torah Shebechsav is Abba. Torah Shebal Peh is Ima. Torah Shebechsav, what's the number that relates to Torah Shebechsav? The number. Well, you weren't sitting here, so you couldn't possibly know that. You just learned it. 3, right? The Mashpia, right? Oh, what number relates to Torah Shebal Peh? 4, the Makabel, Torah Mecho. Wow. Gimel Avos, RB Mois. Musar Avicha, which is Torah Shebechsav, the Mashpia, that has everything hidden in it. It's all there. But it hasn't come into a state of revelation yet. Why? Well, what reveals it? Torah Shebal Peh, Torah Simecho. So in Torah Shebechsav, which is Mitzad the Mashpia, which is from above, and that's 3. So what do you eat? What do you do to relate to Geula Mitzad Torah Shebechsav? Matza. How many? 3, because that's the Mashpia. Mitzad Torah Shebal Peh. How do you relate to Geula? The 4th level is revealed. Yayin, which is all by revelation, it has a tam, like we learned yesterday. Wow.
That's pretty heavy duty stuff.
That's pretty amazing. It's just amazing how it all works. There's Zeicher L'Geula L'Cheres Mitzad Torah Shebechsav Musar Avicha Mashpia is Madgish, is emphasized the Geula Vidos is Mitzad HaKadosh Baruch. Comes from HaKadosh Baruch. That's Matza. Und der Rebbe, therefore, there's going to be 2 things. Is das Aleph al Yedei Achilas Matzah? It's Dafka Matzah. Why Matzah? Why Dafka Matzah? Based on everything we learned in the Sicha. Why Matzah?
Because it's in the state, it's in the hidden state, it's held.
There's no tam. Right? Matzah represents that aspect of Geula that I don't have a taste in. Right? It doesn't have a tam. Right? We're going to see, the Rebbe is going to continue, it has a tam matzah, but it doesn't have a tam. There's no taste, per se. It's just flour and water. Matter of fact, if you add taste to matzah, then you passel the matzah from being used on Pesach. Okay, so it has no taste. What does that represent? that aspect of geula that I haven't internalized. I don't get a geschmack from it. It's not part of me. It happened to me, not part of me yet. That's matzah. When did that? What time in history does that relate to? Yetzias Mitzrayim, when the Yidden weren't yet in a state of truly being redeemed. The language of the Nigel Gevarn. When did they become Nigel Gevarn according to the Rebbe? By Matan Torah. Right? That's Dafka, the fourth level. But the first state. So the aspect of Geula that comes from above, from a Kadosh Baruch Hu, is Deriba is dos, it's Aleph, Achilas, Matza, specifically Matza, which has no taste, which isn't part of me yet. It's being imposed from above on me. In a good way. Unbase, in a misper from Gimel. It's also 3, because what's 3? Valdim Hashpa. While the Hashpa is Kol in Mashpia, is still incorporated in the Mashpia and hasn't come to a state of revelation yet, Stellt sich es in 3. So this is revealed in 3. It expresses itself in 3 bechinas, 3 qualities. So that again, the masha for that is the seichel of the mashpia. So the level of 3 is revealed. Dafka is shaykh to the state of matzah. It hasn't been internalized. It's still all shaykh to the above, the mashpia, Kadosh Baruch Hu in the story of Pesach. It's all shaykh to the Eibishter. And so you and I relate to that aspect of Geula by eating matzah, which has no taste, and Dafka 3, because it's still shaykh to the mashpia, which is the 3 levels of mashpia that we just learned about today. The Chachamim, along come Chazal, Torah Shebal Peh, and what does Shlomo Melech say about Torah Shebal Peh in the same pasuk? Teres Imecha, that's Teres Imecha. Torah Shebechsav is Musar Avicha. It comes from Abba. That's all in a state of concealment, right? It's there, but nothing's revealed yet, right? It's like the tipa. It's all there. There's a whole child there, but Ima brings that child into a state of revelation. So too, Torah Shebal Peh brings Torah Shebechsav into a state of revelation. Right? Try to keep Shabbos from Torah Shebechsav. Figure out what to do. I don't have a clue what to do, right? Shake a lulav and esrog, you know exactly what you would do. How would you, like, what's a pre-Eitz Hadar? What is that exactly? Kapes Tamarim, what do? Take a palm branch. Yes, I don't know. How do we know what to do? Torah Shebal Peh. Torah Imecha. The revelation of Torah Shebechsav. So long come Chachamim. And what do? Torah Imecha, haben meisif given, they added, un mesaken given, and they established, as their zecher legula lechedus, that the remembrance for gula and chedus must oich also, not only, must also sein in an oifen, be in a way, as men zal der Herrn, that a person understands and feels. Wie the geula is mitzad makabel. And the Gula is also mitzad the makabel, mitzad Yidden, us. Okay, so now we asked the question earlier. I'm not going to remind you of the question. You don't remember the question. So say you don't remember the question. I did ask a question earlier about the 4 cups. What was the question we asked?
What does yain represent? What is 4?
No, that the Rebbe asked and the Rebbe answered. We asked the question. The Rebbe didn't ask it. We asked it. Before we saw everything today, right? Before we saw everything today, we had a question. Now we don't have a question because the Rebbe's answered it, right? But we had a question. Why were there 3 matzahs? What were they represented by? Before we saw anything today, what were the 3 matzahs corresponding to?
Corresponding to the
Yetzias Mitzrayim. Everything's Yetzias Mitzrayim. The whole story is Yetzias Mitzrayim. No? What?
Before Matan Torah.
Okay, bidiyuk, yefeh. Okay, and then what did that relate to?
Like the mashpia.
Oh, no, that's today.
the first 3 words.
Yefeh, the first 3 languages of Geula. That was all shaykh to Tesvav Nisan. That happened. V'hoitzeisi, v'tzalti, v'galti. Those all happened on Tesvav Nisan. That the Rebbe took us out of Mitzrayim, etc., etc., etc. Right? And when did the fourth language happen? V'lakakti eschem li la'am? By Matan Torah, because that was the completion of the process. That's when we internalized it. Okay, so what question did we have? I'll ask it again. I think it's an interesting question, and the Rebbe just answered it. Why don't we drink 4 cups of wine on Shavuos? If that's when we reach the 4, you just said that? Okay, good. You say that. You said it. I'm sorry. I thought you were just too busy writing with 2 hands over there. So
I'm trying.
I couldn't hear you. Right? Okay. So you're fair. That why don't we drink the 4 cups on Shavuos? Because Shavuos is the time when the 4th level comes into a state of revelation, when we internalize the whole process. And Yain is all about internalizing, and now we just learned the 4th is all about internalizing. Okay, the 4th language we learned before. Okay, but now we know the answer to the question, because the Rebbe just explained it all to us. What's the answer to the question? Why do we drink the 4 cups on Pesach and not on Shavuos? Based on what we learned today. Let me read that last line again. These last lines. Die Chachamim, Torah about that. Torah Mecho, Mekabel, haben Meisif given und Mesaken given, as der Zecher Legula L'Cheres, that the remembrance of Gula L'Cheres moves must euch also. When? On Pesach. Sein in an oifen, be in a way, as men zal der Herren, that we understand and feel wie the Geula is mitzad the Makabel, that the Geula is also mitzad the Makabel Eden. Why? Because what's hidden in the Hashpah, what's hidden in the Gimel? The 4th level is hidden in the Gimel. Right? Oh, so once there's a revelation of Gimel, there's already a 4th level there. It's still in a state of Helam, but it's there. You just have to reveal it. But it's all part of that experience. It's not what happens 50 days later. 50 days later is the revelation of it. But where does that state of reality come into existence? That state of reality comes into existence on Tesvav Nisan. It's just in a state of Elam. Like the Tipa of the Father. What's there? The whole Vlad. It's all there. It just has to come into a state of revelation. And Ima is that which brings that state of hiddenness into a state... excuse me, a state of revelation. That's Ima, that's Torah Shebaal Peh. So what does Torah Shebaal Peh do? Reveal what's already there in Torah Shebaal. It's already there. Just have to reveal it. In historical terms, when did it come into a state of revelation? By Matan Torah. That's when we internalized it all. But what are we internalizing? We're internalizing Tesvav Nisan. It's all there. We're internalizing Yetzias Mitzrayim. Und der Rebbe, the Rebbe says, therefore, kumt es is, Aleph, Shtiyas Yayin. The 4th level has to be wine. Why? But not the tam. It's not the tam, it has a taste. Meaning it's part of my experience, part of me. I experience it, I enjoy it, get pleasure from it. The Geschmack, the Rebbe talked about from the taste of wine. Un base, in a mismer from Dalit, that to be 4. Dafka, why? Because what we learned today, 4 is the Makabel. Gimel is the Mashpia, and 4 is the Makabel. So mitzad the Mashpia, there's Matza, which has no taste, because we haven't internalized it yet, it's all coming from above, and there's Gimel, why Gimel? Because the Mashpia is the reality of Gimel. Mitzad, the Makabel, in terms of us, there's going to be 4 because that's the level of Makabel, and it's going to be wine because it's now going to be something that we've internalized. Why do we drink the 4 cups of wine on Pesach? We drink the 4 cups of wine on Pesach, Dafka, because it's all hidden it's all hidden in Tesvav Nisan. It's all there. So we haven't revealed it yet. Who revealed it? Torah Shebaal Peh. Torah Mecho revealed what's already happened in Musar Avicha. So the din deraisa mitzad Musar Avicha is coming from above. And that's matzah. The din d'Rabbanan is revealing in the level of below what's already there. And that's the level of 4. That's the din d'Rabbanan. That's Darsi Mecho, Ima. That's why there's Gimel Aves and Dalit Imahos. Wow. Okay. Let's go a little further. It's just so amazing, this Sicha. It's amazing. The beer hanal. This used to happen at 1 in the morning, 1:30 in the morning, and 7:70 after the. Actually, this didn't, right? We said this was actually a Sudas Mashiach Sicha. Their beer hanal, this explanation in dem tam from Gimel Matzahs regarding the reason for Gimel Matzahs. It's a funny word to use relative to Matzahs. Tam. Get Oicha Azbara also gives an explanation in a davar tamua, in something that's quite wondrous. Was man gefindt benegeh zu Matzah. That which one finds, gefindt, same word, benegeh regarding Matzah. Their din is, the halacha is like this. But this is brought halacha. It's bala matzah yatzah. If a person swallows matzah, doesn't chew it, he just swallows it. He's yatzah. He could take little pieces of matzah, put it on the back of his tongue, and swallow it like a pill. If he eats 2 kazayim, the rice of 1 kazayim, he eats 2 kazayim of matzah that way, so he's yatzah the din of eating matzah. He didn't really eat it, right? But okay. Says nit kein chiyuv. It's not an obligation to margish zayin tam matzah, to feel the taste of matzah, which of course comes from chewing. Chewing is what allows you to taste the food that you're eating. If you just put it in the back of your mouth and swallow it, so then you don't get all those juices going, etc., and you don't feel that, you don't experience the taste. Which is why you can swallow a pill. If you were to chew it, and how they're just unbelievably bitter, most pills. Right? Okay, you want to taste it, so you just put it in the back of your mouth and you swallow it. Okay, maybe you didn't taste it. So you can actually swallow matzah and be yetzer the mitzvah of matzah. Right? Now, obviously, you can't swallow mutter. Why not?
You
You have to taste the bitterness of the mar. It's an intrinsic part of the mitzvah. You can't put mar put crane on the back of your tongue and just swallow it down. Not yet to the mitzvah. To taste it. Okay. Says nit kein chiyuv to margish zayin tam. Nars is given achilas matzah, and therefore it's called eating matzah. Afilu derech bliya, even through this bizarre method of swallowing, is men yotzi yedei chayvasa. A person has fulfilled his obligation. And now the Rebbe says, Bashain came by matter. That's not the case by matter. Is men nit yetze ad sheyargish tam rirose befiv. He has to taste the bitterness in his mouth. Now, romaine lettuce is not overly bitter, so it's not like a painful experience, though we do wrap up some crane in there, and sometimes the crane can send you going. Right? But the Rebbe used to just eat crane. I just take the crane, and it was a whole thing. I was never upstairs in the Seder, but the people who were, so the Rebbe would take the crane and put it in a spoon and flatten it out and take another spoon and say, there's a whole thing with the crane, and then the Rebbe put the crane in his mouth and chew the crane and swallow the crane. And they said the Rebbe would often turn bright red after eating the crane. A couple of years the Rebbe coughed after eating the crane. The Rebbe would eat the crane. It was a whole thing. And the spoon, making it hard.
What kind of crane was it? Was it like the like just
white horseradish?
just chops up?
Yeah, horseradish root. That's what we eat. It's what's interesting is the next day when you put it on something, it has no sharpness whatsoever. By the next day, it's gone. I don't know how the guys who package it and sell it on the supermarket shelves keep it sharp for as long as they do, because the next day it's gone. At night, you could die eating this stuff. It's just so strong. I remember once we had she was a strange person. Had a student who was coming to Seder, and so she came over to help prepare a little bit before Seder. And so we gave her the job of grinding up the crane in the food processor. So she peeled the crane and she put it in, and she was having a really good time. And then she decided she wanted to see how it smells. She took off the lid
No.
She passed out. She passed out on our floor. And Baruch Hashem, I didn't have to worry about it. I'm married to a doctor. She passed out like a light, like Mama fell over. Baruch Hashem, she didn't bang her head. Oh, it's unbelievable how strong it is. It's unbelievable. Right? So for the night, if you do that late enough in the day, so the night it's okay. By the next morning, if you happen to be in Crown Heights and get some Raskin's kosher lepesa gefilte fish, which the Rabbanim say we can eat because all it is just ground up fish. They don't do anything. It's not processed. It's just ground up. So that you can get. There's nothing in it, no sugar, nothing. So when I, sometimes traveling, if I was traveling close enough to Pesach, I'd come home with some gefilte fish. And you put it on there. Didn't hide the taste of the gefilte fish, unfortunately. Gefilte fish is a hechetimsa to put nice, a good pile of good red grain on it. Gefilte fish is horrible. With grain, it's the greatest. But nothing. It's very interesting. I don't know how they keep it sharp in the bottles. There must be some preservative that they use that keeps it sharp. Maybe if they mix it with beef, but they have white horseradish also that stays sharp. Right, that's the really strong stuff. No, they do.
The bottles usually has vinegar. The point being to
Is that
the air, oxygen away from the top.
is that what happens?
When it oxidizes, it loses its sharpness.
Okay.
So if you take the white horseradish, put it in a bag or a container and force out the air, the next day it should still be sharp.
Yeah. So we'll try that this year. We'll maybe put it in a Ziploc bag.
Yeah.
My wife has a
Get
container.
as much of the air out as you can. Just push it in.
Okay, because we do want to cry in the morning, just like we cry at night. Right?
Rabbi, did the Rebbe have the grain plain or?
As far as I can tell, it seemed. Did he wrap it in a leaf? Maybe he wrapped it in a leaf, but I do recall the ball of grain being like, that's what everybody explained. I don't remember, did the Rebbe wrap it then in a leaf? Might be. But the Rebbe was eating grain. That's what he was eating from our. We put a little grain in that. We do add grain to. We eat both. Both, on the Seder plate we have maror and grain, maror and chazeret, so we have both romaine lettuce and grain, and romaine lettuce and grain, for both of them. On the Seder plate. So, and when we eat the maror, we put some grain in there. Wrap it up, dip it, get rid of the charesis. And you can, if it's good grain, you can feel it in there. Cleans out your sinuses. Okay, so by matzah, there's this interesting din. That if you swallow matzah without tasting it, you're yotze. However, leidach, on the other hand, is their din. The din is nit yotze b'matzah mivushelis. You're not yotze in boiled matzah, meaning matzah that doesn't have the taste of matzah. You're not yotze. Whether afilu mit a matzah vos hat zich geweikt in mei peres, or even a matzah that was kneaded with mei peres, right, with fruit juice. That's matzah shira. By afal pi as ein sarch shitem tam matzah befiv, that even though, and this is the language of the Alter Rebbe, that even though you don't have to taste the matzah in your mouth because you can swallow it, mikol makam hamatzah atzma, the matzah itself, sarich shiyeh ba tam matzah, has to have a taste of matzah. Now that's a very funny halacha. If I don't have to taste it, what difference does it make what its taste is? Right? No, the matzah itself has to have a taste of matzah, which is flour and water. That's the taste of matzah, the non-taste of matzah. That's what matzah tastes like. Okay, but I don't have to taste that. But it has to have that taste. And if it has any other taste, I'm not yotze. I'm sorry. Yeah, v'loishi yufag tama, not that it should be weakened. Yufag is weakened. Taima, its taste al yedei tamacha, by virtue of another tam. is nit moving. It's not understood. The Mefarshim Fregen, the commentators ask. Last page. What, you don't have a page? How do you not have a last page? Everybody have a last page?
Yeah.
You don't have a last page? Here. Oh my gosh. Sometimes these things happen, you know. Here's the last page.
I was thinking this is a short series.
Here's the last page. Well, not much left. Just take that and put it on that if you want. Afterwards. No, I'm saying, you know, when you just take it off and staple it back on, so you can have the whole thing. Okay? Vibald as by Achilas Matza, verdet sich nit as der Adam zal margish sein Tam Matza. By Achilas Matza, it's not necessary for the person to feel the Tam Matzah. This is the question they'll ask. For Vos is Lama. Huh? For Vos is why. Why is for Vos Lama? I don't know. For Vos, Darf die Matzah Atzma, why does the Matzah itself, yes, haben Tam Matzah? If I don't have to taste it, why does it have to have a taste? What difference does it make? Vabir Panimi, and then, what's the explanation of this in Panimius? Das was by matzahs, by mitzvahs, achilas matzah, by the mitzvah of achilas matzah, muz nit sein tam matzah, is nar mitzad dem gavra. The fact that there doesn't have to be a taste of matzah is only mitzad from the vantage point of the gavra, the person. Every mitzvah has two different aspects, the chefza and almost every mitzvah, the chefza and the gavra, the object of the mitzvah and the person doing the mitzvah, right? Gavra and chefza. So some halachas relate to the chefza and some halachas relate to the gavra, right? Some halachas relate to the person doing the mitzvah. There's certain things that person has to accomplish by virtue of doing this mitzvah. Some things relate to the object itself, obviously, lots of halachas regarding the mitzvah object itself. Right? One of the amazing Sichas of the Rebbe, Tafshin Nun Aleph, the Rebbe talks about the mitzvah of Sfiras Eimer. What's the mitzvah object? What's the chefza? So the Rebbe says, time. This is an amazing idea. Time is the mitzvah object. What are you doing? Counting time. Time is a very amazing thing. Right? The Rebbe created two things in Elam Hazeh, space, time and space. Right? There's also something called nefesh, life, which lives in the time and the space. Right? But basically, physical creation is time and space. So, because the Medrash asks, which of those came first? Zman, time. It's really fascinating. Time came before space, so to speak. Right? Meaning in that realm of non-time, so time came into being first. Right? It's also very interesting that we talk about levels of time before creation. Really levels of time before creation. What does that mean? Alpayim shana lifnei brias ha'olam, things like that. How many generations before brias? What does that mean? Well, there's a reality of time before there's actually a reality of physical world. Time is a more ethereal thing than space. There's no doubt about that. Space is more, for us, space is more easily encountered. Time just is sort of there and moves and passes. But we measure it by virtue of the movement of bodies in space. But what it is, it's very, just passes. Change happens as a result of the passage of time. Coughs get better. They just get a little better. As the time passes, it just gets a little better. Or worse, depending on where you are in the time of the cough, right? And all sorts of things. Right? One thing, don't worry, people think you get slower in old age. It's not true. It's because once you start going downhill, you pick up speed. That's what they say. Isn't that an uplifting thing? There's 3 guys in here just got very nervous. No, it's not true. Depends how you look at it. Right? I'm sorry.
Fast sleep.
Right. Might you know about this is my greatest worry in life, about the man who had a dream that he was giving a speech in the House of Lords in London, and he woke up and he was. So it's my greatest fear in life. I have a dream I'm giving a class and I wake up and I'm in the middle of it. I used to tell stories to my kids at night to put them to sleep. I'd make up stories. So I'd sit there on the ground and make up a story, and sometimes I'd fall asleep. I'd like start to doze while I was telling the story. So then, of course, the things right before I actually, so the things I was saying were all non sequiturs, had nothing to do with each other. So I would, sort of, then I'd wake up. 10 seconds later, you wake up, and I'd see my kids all looking out of their bed, looking at me like, "What? What did he say? What's he talking about?" Right? Somehow Smokey and Barney ended up being... There was a horse and a dog, but then we got frum because, the Rebbe started talking about not dealing with Mickey Mouse and all that. So we went to a sheep and a goat and a Shepsel, Izzy, and Perry, a cow. Shepsel, Izzy, and Perry. They lived in a farm. And one of them would walk over to the fence, and at the fence they would meet the man, and the man would give them a special shlichus to do, and then they'd go and jump over the fence and walk down the path and get in the boat. The boat would go into the middle of the lake, and then the boat would fly in the air, and the boat would come down somewhere else, and they'd go into the center of the town, and they'd gather all the children, and they'd teach the children a lesson in Avodas Hashem. These great stories. My kids tell the stories to their kids. They make up. They still call them Smokey and Barney stories, but it's really Perry, Izzy, and Smokey and Barney were a horse and a dog. I guess Barney was the dog. I don't know.
Mr. Ed?
Mr. Ed was not the horse. Mr. Ed is a goyish horse. Smokey was a Jewish. Smokey was a Jewish horse. Smokey would get all the kids together in the middle. It used to be a lot of fun. I would sometimes fall asleep. Okay, let's see what the Rebbe says. We have 5 minutes. Let's see what the Rebbe says. Chefetz and Gavra. There's the mitzvah object, and there's the person who's doing the mitzvah. So mitzvah the Gavra.
What did you say? What's the word for the meaning of the mitzvah?
For the what?
Meaning. You said the meaning, the purpose of the mitzvah, and the person.
There's the person, and then the chefetz, the object, not the meaning, the object.
Okay.
Like a chefetz, chashud, right? Excuse me, they talk about that a lot in this country, unfortunately. Suspicious objects. Look out for us. Suspicious object. Okay. Chefetz, it's an object. Gavra is a person. Gever. So Gavra is the person doing the mitzvah. So mitzad the Gavra, matzah doesn't have to have taste. Mitzad the Chefetz, though, it has to have taste. Why? What's the Rebbe's going to explain that to us? Right? The fact that matzah doesn't have to have taste, that's nar. It's only mitzad den Gavra, the person. While by Yidden, in Geulas Mitzrayim, while by the Jews in Geulas Mitzrayim, was is gekommen min lamaila, which all came from above, an inyan in welche ze haben nit atam canal, so that we didn't have a taste of the matzah, of the geula. Oh, but already, if you think about it, wait a minute. Did the geula have a taste, so to speak? Was the geula complete geula? Of course, the geula was a complete geula. I wasn't yet in a place where I could taste the complete geula. So therefore, you and I celebrate that geula by virtue of our state at the time of the revelation, and at the state of the time of the revelation, we couldn't internalize it completely. So mitzad us, matzah doesn't have taste. Because matzah represents that aspect of the geula that we hadn't internalized yet. But the geula itself, which is what the Rebbe just told us, right? The geula itself, what did Chazal come and establish? They established the revelation, they established wine in order to reveal to us that even at Tesvav Nisan the geula was complete. You and I hadn't internalized it yet, but that doesn't mean the geula wasn't a complete geula. The geula was a complete geula. You and I only internalized it 50 days later, but that's the din in us, not in the geula. The geula is what it is. The Eibishter took us out of Mitzrayim. We're out. I'm still stuck. That's a din in me, not in the geula. The geula is fine. The Eibishter took us out completely and totally. But since but this is the way all of life works. Since it's only from above, so it doesn't affect me completely yet. I haven't internalized it. So mitzad the gavra, mitzad us, I don't have a taste in it yet. But when the Eibishter, so to speak, looks at Yetzias Mitzrayim, what does he see? Complete redemption. It's all over. It's done. What did Chazal reveal? That it was all done by Yetzias Mitzrayim. It's all there. It's just hidden, but it's all there. So they say drink 4 cups of wine now, not in Shavuos, now, because it's all happening now. Oh, so mitzad the gavra, matzah doesn't have to taste, but mitzad the matzah has to have taste. Mitzad the chefza, which is a chefza of geula, it has to have taste. Taste of matzah, but taste.
So the wine has the taste.
Yeah, no, but now we're trying to understand the din as to why matzah has to have a tam matzah. You and I don't have to taste the matzah. That's relevant to what you were just saying. That matzah represents that aspect of geula where I don't have a taste, so to speak. But that's what the Rebbe is now explaining. There's this interesting din in matzah. You and I don't have to taste it. How do we see that? You can actually swallow it without tasting it. You can just put little pieces of matzah in the back of your throat and swallow it. And if you eat it enough, matzah in the proper time, so you're Yetzizah. You've fulfilled the mitzvah. Can't do that with Mara. You have to taste it. But you don't have to taste the matzah. Why? Because matzah represents the fact that I don't have a taste in it. But the matzah has to have a taste of matzah. The matzah can't be boiled, where there's no, it's just, Peseda, there's a Baruch issue, Peseda, but okay, that's a minag, or even a chumrah. But it's the ikar halacha if you boiled it, so could you eat it? No, why not? It doesn't taste like matzah, there's no taste in it. It's gone. What do you mean? I don't have to taste matzah. I don't have to taste matzah, but the matzah has to taste like matzah. Why? I don't have to taste it. Oh, because the chefza itself is still a chefza of geula. Right? Where do we see that? We'll end with this and then we'll finish tomorrow. This week's parsha, the last week's parsha, Pekudei. Right? Question asked by all the Meforshim. Right? Why in the Torah is careful about every single word? How can it possibly be that the Torah has 2 whole parshas, V'yakel and Pekudei, that seem to be a complete repetition of Truma and Tetzaveh? Why not? What's the chiddush in V'yakel Pekudei that we did? It talks about how we did everything that Moshe commanded us to do in Truma and Tetzaveh. Okay, so Truma and Tetzaveh is the commandment, and V'yakel Pekudei is the actual doing. Okay, so just say we did it. Why do you need 2 full parshas in the Torah? The Torah makes a deal about an extra yud, about an extra vav, an extra word, every detail in the Torah. We learn mountains of halachas from extra letters. We have 2 whole parshas that are just, there's nothing new in them. So what can that, why? So the Rebbe says an amazing thing. The first Mishkan, Truma Tetzaveh, is Moshe Rabbeinu on Har Sinai. This is the Gavra and the Chefza, so to speak. Moshe Rabbeinu on Har Sinai talking with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. What does the Kadosh Baruch Hu tell him? He tells him about a Mishkan. What does that Mishkan look like? This unbelievably holy, ethereal, godly thing in space. Okay. But there's another Mishkan. So it says, right, Mishkan. There's 2 Mishkans. There's the Mishkan that Moshe hears about Lamaila. That's not the Mishkan the Eibishter wants. What Mishkan does the Eibishter want? The Mishkan that we do. The Mishkan that comes as a result of us down here doing the Avodah. where Shmerel and Beryl are next to each other, and Shmerel drops a beam on Beryl's foot and goes, "Wow, you tried careful. You dropped it on my foot. I'm sorry, this thing's heavy." I mean, you think, oh, they were building the Mishkan and everybody was walking around. I mean, some guy put in the nail wrong, had to take out the nail and put it in again. Two people building something, but every time we did it, it worked out perfectly. Okay, it's true. Picking up the crushing, Moshe Rabbeinu had to do that. Had to pretend to do that, and the Eibishter did it. Okay, but a lot of the other stuff, I imagine we made a mistake and had to redo it, and right that because that's what people are about. Oh, where does Shechina happen? In which Mishkan? The second, the one we do, the one that's down here. What's it all about? Yes, there's here. What does the Rebbe say? There's a geula from above. There's a geula from above. The Eibishter makes a geula happen, right? But if you and I haven't internalized it, so if we don't have common, the geula is there. It's done. It's happened. There's already a geula. But you and I haven't internalized it, so then nothing's complete. It all has to happen below. The geula has to happen from you and I. And that, it's true, that only happened by the Gavra, that only happened by Matan Torah. Which Mishkan did the Eibishter rest in? Where was the Gilui Shechina? The one we built. Second Mishkan. And interestingly enough, what's the first Rashi in the Parsha, right? Moshe Rabbeinu and Betzalel had a machlekes as to how to build it. There's one way milamayla and there's another way milamata, right? So Moshe says, now it's interesting. The Eibishter told Moshe what Betzalel did, but Moshe, since he was all lamayla, said this should happen a different way. That Moshe up there has a vision of what the Mishkan is supposed to look like. So he told Betzalel, right, first the kelim, then the bias. Betzalel said, no. First you make a bias, then you put in the furniture. Right? He says, but sell Kela. He said, oh, you know what the Eibishter wants. So interesting now, which one does the Eibishter want? Betzalel's one milamata, not Moshe's one milamayla. Moshe up there in Etzilus has this vision of what the Mishkan should look like. The Eibishter wants the one that you and I build down here. Moshe gives us this exactly what we learned in Vatat Tetzav. Vatat Tetzav is Bnei Yisrael. Moshe connects us to what the truth is. And because the question arises, so then why did the Eibishter have to, why? So then don't have Truman Tetzavah, just have V'yakov Pekudei. If it's all about V'yakov Pekudei, so forget Truman Tetzavah. Let there not be a command from above. Let's just say the Eibishter commanded to do this and talk about what we made. Right? No, because all of the Kayach comes from the commandment to Moshe above. Vatat Tetzav. Right? But V'yichoy in order to bring about the true expression of it all, it has to be V'yichoy lecha. It has to come down through our avodah. And that's V'yichoy in the Maimer we just learned. Okay, so too in the Sicha and the Mishkan. It's all about the Mishkan we make. I can't make it if Moshe doesn't hear it from the Eibishter. But interesting enough, Moshe's vision of the Mishkan up there in Shemayim is different, and he comes down here with the same vision. It's different than the vision Betzalel has down here. And the Eibishter actually he wants Betzalel's vision. That's the one he told Moshe. All right. Okay. We'll finish this tomorrow. What we'll do after we have one other day, I don't know, we'll do something. There must be some Torah we didn't learn yet that we can do that too. There evidently is a model Seder.
That's evidently led by you.
At 12:30. I couldn't find mine this morning. I wasn't running late because the bus I usually take didn't show up, so I actually had lots of time. And then of course, Daniel Badal just said thank you. He always says thank you after class, so I guess he wasn't here, he was somewhere else.